So this is the review for the Middle Ages and the Renaissance. So I'm going to be going through the slides again, talking about things, and then you will have a video worksheet that'll be your review for the tests that we are going to have. So I'm going to talk about the Middle Ages. The Middle Ages, you can see, were from 800 to 1400. And in this, you see there was the fall of the Roman Empire, the death of Theodosius the Great. We'll talk about genres, instrumentation, composers in this time. They came up with the whole step, half step method, vocal music versus instrumental music, and then we'll talk about sacred versus secular music during this time. With the history of this, so in the Middle Ages was a time of warfare, religious devotion, and royal pageantry. Most of the people in the medieval Europe were peasants. They were uneducated, they farmed land owned by the wealthy, but they didn't receive anything in return. Diseases, physical deformities, and starvation were common among the peasants who lived in filth and poverty. The rich landowners or nobility, they were constantly battling each other to maintain their lands and their servants. So they were constantly in battle with each other because they wanted more land, more people to help, more servants. So everyone was just constantly fighting. Despite their majesty and wealth, the nobles were victims of the same rampant spread of disease, destructive fires, and dangerous bandits that the peasants encountered. So in the midst of these times, the Catholic Church, under the leadership of the Pope in Rome, was an important part of the life in medieval Europe. Towering cathedrals with stained glass windows and like the Notre Dame in Paris, they were paid for donations. So, because the Notre Dame in Paris, a lot of people donated, and that came up about. So, during the fall of the Roman Empire, you'll see that Theodosius the Great, he died, leaving his two sons in charge, and they were very incapable. They just lived the high life. They had all the stuff they need, so why worry about anybody else and the people in their kingdom? And so because of this, a lot of Goths and non-Roman people fled the Huns and moved into Rome. And because of it, they stayed there, and they had just had a battle. So the Roman Empire, the Roman guards, the army was weak, and so they didn't have enough force to move these people out of Rome. So they kind of just stayed, and they didn't get moved. So more Goths and more non-Romans, people started heading towards Western Rome. So that's kind of what was happening during these times. During the medieval times, you had plain chant, also known as plain song. And so it is a body chant, uses liturgies consisting of a single unaccompanied melody. Remember, in this time, a lot of stuff was unaccompanied in the medieval times. Gregorian chant is like plain song. Gregorian chant uses a single vocal line and is sang with free rhythm, so there's no consistent tempo. It's just, it's restricted to a certain amount of notes, and it is sang in the church setting. Monophonic music is a single music line without accompaniment. So you can see plain chant, Gregorian chant, all use the monophonic style. And then later, towards the end of the medieval times, they started to use polyphony, or polyphonic music, which was two or more melodies being sang at the same time. Those are the ones that I wanted to talk about that you'll get to know. You can kind of read the others, but I really want to make sure that you know about monophonic, polyphonic, Gregorian chant, plain chant. Those are the main ones. Most of the music during this time was sacred. Towards the end, you started seeing more secular, but mainly in this era was sacred music. So in secular music, which is non-church music, came about later in the Middle Ages. So if you can see here, this is an example of plain chant, very, simple, plain. The melodies are not very elaborate, and so you can kind of just take a look there. Here's some of the instruments that you will see during the medieval times. You have the pan flute, which is right here. You have the Gem's horn, which is right here. Okay, it kind of looks like it came off of an antler. Okay, you have the lute. The lute was one of the most popular. Okay, then you have the mandor. Okay, then the gittern, which almost looks like a piano or a harp in a way. And then the psaltery, and then the lyra. So when they did go off into battle, they often used instruments to lead their way. So they would use trumpets and shawms. Okay, that would be kind of there. Here's a shawm, here's the trumpets. That would be to be used the fanfare, like, hey, here we come. And then people would carry these large kettle drums on their back while someone marched behind and kept the tempo or kept the beat that they were marching to. Some of the composers, you did see some videos about these, so you can go and review the videos of these composers. But Guido, you saw a video about him. He was an Italian monk who made syllables for singers to remember melodies. So remember, he used the scale, the modern day scale that we use, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, which is what we call solfege for singing nowadays. So he used words to create, to show you, like, hey, this is the note that I'm using in that scale. So if it was do, the word would start with a D, like DS, E, re, or something like that. So he would use that and go re and mi, fa, so. And whatever it was, that word would start on the beginning letter of that solfege syllable. So what was great about this is that now people could read music and know where to go. As opposed to I sing it, you repeat it, now you have to remember it and you have to go. Now people could actually read music. He created staff notation using the 5 lines and 4 spaces that we see now in music. So Guido was the lead composer on that. And then I gave you the video about Hildegard von Bingen. Remember, she's the one who saw visions, and they made her out almost to be kind of like a crazy lady. But she was a nun. Remember, the Pope gave her, said her visions are true, her visions are coming from God. So now she kind of got free range, like, oh, well, the Pope says that my visions are true, so here we go. She was a philosopher, visionary, and composer. She was named Doctor of the Church, and she was actually one of the earliest known composers, born around 1098, so just about 100 years after Guido. You have Leonin. He was born in like about 1150s. They don't really know. He was a member of the Notre Dame School of Polyphony. He was the lead composer in polyphonic music. So he came later. The medievals ended about 1400. So he was almost a little late in the game with that. So polyphonic music, 2 or more parts, he started really writing that. Along with him joining the school of Notre Dame School of Polyphony was also Periton. He is definitely known for his polyphonic work. He didn't live very long, as you can tell. And so before he composed church music, it was monophonic, but so most of his church work is monophonic, but he also started creating 3, 4 voice songs using that polyphony style. And then you have Philippe de Vitry, born in 1291, died in 1361. He was bishop, composer, poet. He created Ars Nova. And then Guillaume de Fay was born in 1397. and he was known for sacred and secular pieces. See, he came right at the end of the medieval, because medieval time ended in 1400, so he was definitely late in the game. So he could almost be considered more Renaissance than medieval. He composed masses, motets, and hymns.